Hey guys, it's Madison Harnish back here with another video in my blue kitchen. This is a bit of an unusual video. What? Could I even speak? Oh my gosh. This is a bit of an unusual video today, but something that I think is really important. Usually I do commentaries on, anti-MLM companies. So, of course, if you want to see stuff like that, definitely subscribe. I wanted to make a video today about a topic really close to my heart. I was a model from the ages of 14 to 18, and there's some things in the modeling industry that not a lot of people know. I'm sure anyone who's worked as a model before gets like their hometown friends asking them how they can get into modeling, and they think, ooh, you really don't want to. And a lot of people kind of look up to the idea of being a model, but don't really understand the harsh realities of the industry. So I really wanted to talk about it and expose those harsh realities and definitely go into the big business of it, because at the end of the day, modeling is a big industry. It's a business. So many people don't realize that until they're in the midst of it and actually working through it. So if you're thinking about being a model, or you have friends that are wanting to be models, definitely watch this video. I don't want to discourage anyone from following their dreams and pursuing their passions. These are things that I wish I knew when I was 14 years old, had stars in my eyes, and was first getting into the industry. So when I was 14 years old, I was signed with Wilhelmina Los Angeles. And that's one of the top modeling agencies in Los Angeles, although in my opinion, some of the smaller agencies in LA are much better. My mom and I didn't really know anything. We had a friend of ours through my ballet school that was a model. It seemed like she was really happy with it, so they gave us general advice on how to get into a modeling agency, and we followed up on that and ended up going to something called an open call throughout LA. So I went into a few different agencies, and basically Wilhelmina was the first really big agency to offer me a contract. And my mom and I were just so excited about it that we didn't really know much else and just, signed it immediately. To us, we didn't understand that maybe it was a better thing to get started with a smaller agency first, then go into a bigger agency. Now at this point in my life, I definitely feel like it's better, if you are going to pursue modeling, to start with a smaller agency first. So when I was 14 years old, I was a really skinny, scrawny kid. I was just super active and just really, really thin. So I was labeled heroin chic by my agency, which now that I think about it is kind of gross. Yeah. Even though I was underage, I would often go to shoots alone, and that wasn't the fault of my agency or really my parents. I think it was just a miscommunication of my parents thinking that a lot of these shoots are very professional shoots with a lot of people on set, when maybe at times it was just a male photographer there, and me being underage. At the end of the day, the agency has so many girls that it's really hard for them to keep track of everyone. There's just so many people to manage and take care of that it can be hard to police, okay, what test shoots are you going to? Who's gonna be there? Are you underage? Are you not? Like, are you taken care of? Do you have a ride? It can be really hard to keep track of all of that. So, I don't necessarily blame the agency. It's just looking back, so many bad things could have happened. So many bad things almost happened. And I really had to learn from a young age how to grow up and protect myself and keep my guard up at all times. So that was just something that I really had to learn, or else bad things would happen. Maybe normally if I had a normal kind of teenage high school year, that wouldn't have been the case. An unfortunate fact of modeling is that a lot of people think that you get to keep all the clothes. I've gotten to keep like 1 or 2 pieces out of like my 4-year modeling career. So You don't get to keep the clothes. You also don't get creative input. A lot of what I loved about modeling was the creative test shoots that I got to do. So when you're starting off in modeling, you have to build your portfolio. That involves doing a lot of what they call test shoots, which is not getting paid for the photo shoots that you're doing, but working with photographers so that you can kind of create these creative pieces of art that showcases your portfolio and your talents and kind of inspires creative directors and casting directors to choose you over others. You know, they can visualize you as part of their project when you go into a casting. But unfortunately, when you're on a job, it's a much different story. You know, like with test shoots, you kind of get to be creative, work with the photographer. Actual jobs, you have zero creative input. In fact, on multiple occasions, I've had people tell me to just sit still and be quiet because I'm just the mannequin and that's all I'm being paid for. Literally. That gets mind-numbing after a while. Being told that, you know, you don't have a right to speak on something, that you're just kind of sitting there to look pretty, you know? It's not fulfilling at the end of the day. Another interesting thing is that big agencies doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna right away get all this work. I think my biggest problem with my modeling career is I was so impatient. I wanted jobs right now. And it actually takes quite a bit of time to build yourself up as a model and get consistent work, no matter what agency you're in. Just because you're in a big agency doesn't mean anything. In fact, the new faces department of the agency that I was in had quite a few girls I was friends with, and we all had the same experience of going months on end with no contact from our agents, one job here and there with barely any money, and us just constantly struggling to get them to give us castings or give us shoots. Not in a way of like, oh, give us this to us because we deserve it, but more just us sitting there being like, we want to work, we're ready to work. When can we work? And just having to kind of sit there and take whatever comes our way. And I remember my first few years of being part of the agency, it was just like a runway that all the new faces were doing for like $100. And then that was like an 8-hour day. You know, it's basically minimum wage. One photo shoot here, but it's like for $50. It's not really a big gig. And a lot of the new faces, that's what you get, is you just kind of get the scraps, you know, that they give you. And you don't get a lot of guidance on how to build up your career. The agency just kind of expects you to build it yourself for them to be able to give you jobs when that happens. You know, like it's more just like a nameplate of like, oh, I'm part of this agency, rather than like this agency is actively working with me to give me the jobs that I'm ready for. So most of what I did, because I'm impatient and compulsive, was just go out and find test shoots and find jobs myself. I literally just would, as a model myself, contact photographers that I liked and respected and would just be like, hey, you want to work with me? Let's do a shoot, or let me know if you have any gigs coming up and you need a model. And no kidding, that's how I got the majority of my work, is through going out independently and contacting people. But I still had to give my agency commission off of whatever work I got because that's the contract I signed. So great. Another really bad clause of that is that you rarely get paid as a model. Like, even if you're working all the time, the agencies have this weird clause where they don't have to pay you until technically 250 days after the work that you did. And then, of course, especially if you're constantly doing work, you forget what you worked for. Like, a lot of models have to keep a book of every single job they do. And I've heard so many stories of models fighting for the money that they earned because the agency just claims like, oh no, you didn't do that, or oh, we forgot. They did the work, they put it in, they deserve to be paid. And the agency will hold on to that money basically to kind of make their account look bigger and move some things around. It's kind of a really shady thing that a lot of modeling agencies will do. Oh, I just kicked the stand. The worst part is when you get models who are flown from overseas, you know, models from Switzerland and Norway and Africa who don't necessarily speak English, or English is not their first language. They're in this new country and this agency is trying to jip them over jobs that they did. And so it's like these young girls fresh from a whole other country that now also have to keep track of all the jobs that they're doing to ensure they're getting paid, but they might not even know technically how to do that, you know, because it's a whole new country with a whole different system. And modeling agencies do take advantage of that, unfortunately. quickly. Another kind of shady thing in modeling agencies is model houses. There's a lot of funny memes. My favorite Instagram is like shit model management, I think it's called, but it's seriously the best. It's so funny. It's actually really relatable from a model's experience. You know, model housing is a complete scam. It's basically to get you to constantly be indebted to your agency. They will get an apartment, like the apartment that I'm living in right now, where it's literally 2 bedrooms, but there's bunk beds everywhere. So you're literally sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with like 8 girls. No joke, 8 girls. It's dingy and it's kind of gross, but they will charge you like $1,500 a month for it when there's 8 other girls living there. So if they're all being charged that, that's literally what? 1,500. 10,000? 12,000? Something like that. Yeah, 12,000. That's literally $12,000 math. Stonk. That's literally $12,000 that the modeling agency is getting a month for an apartment that costs maybe $4,000. No joke. But they'll make these girls pay that amount and then purposefully not give them jobs that will help them make up for that amount, so that they're constantly indebted to their agency and have to continue working their butts off to be able to pay them back. Luckily, I never went into model housing, but it's really sad. I've seen so many girls go into it and get way in over their head, and it's really, really wrong. Obviously, a big part of modeling is you get a ton of rejection, and I didn't fully realize the extent of this until I was modeling. I worked a lot in LA, but I lived all the way in Orange County, so I would have to personally drive to every single casting, to every single event. My agents would literally send me an email about a casting when it was an hour away. Let's say they send me an email Tuesday at 2:30, hey, this casting's at 3, be there then. And I'm like an hour and a half away, sometimes even 2 hours because of traffic. It's crazy. And so I would have to rush my behind over to that casting and then get there, wait in this huge line, be so excited, like, oh, I'm ready to go. I got my comp card. I'm feeling good. I don't have any pimples on my face this week. My teeth are feeling whiter. Like, I'm ready to go. And then try so hard to like win over the casting director, make them like you. And then you literally just get a, hi, thanks, next. Like, it's soul crushing. It's soul crushing because literally you are being judged on your appearance, you know? So to get rejected consistently on your appearance, yeah, you may be labeled a model and with a top agency or whatever, but on a day-to-day basis, you're constantly getting rejected on your appearance, on your looks. You're getting them nitpicked apart to the point where most models are literally the most insecure people I've ever met, because they're constantly being judged about how they look, how they act. Imagine, it's like living in a fishbowl. It's really, really hard. It's like for every one job that you had, you went to 48 castings and got rejected. For every one picture that you have that might look good, there's 100 or 200 other pictures of you where you look absolutely awful. That's the reality of it. So it kind of balances out and you never really get that like self-esteem boost from it. And then by the time you actually get a job, you're so desperate to get a job that you'll literally take anything that they give you. It's so funny. I've definitely deleted a lot of very weird photo shoots that I went to, but there's some like weird jobs that I've had that I'll just never get over. Of course, an inevitable with modeling is you get a lot of creepers. And I could go really in depth into this. It's definitely a lot of pain that's been brought onto me from a very young age, dealing with older men coming onto you when you're 14, 16. It's rough. It's really, really rough, especially if you don't have a ton of guidance in the industry and what to do, and you're just kind of young trying to navigate through it. But we already know that. We already know that's a thing. I would say the most dangerous thing about modeling is that predators are attracted to being involved in the modeling industry because they know that A, a ton of young girls are in the industry, and B, a lot of these young girls are big dreamers who want to make it big. They want to be stars. They're excited about it. They have a dream. They have a passion. And a lot of these people take advantage of it. They take advantage of your passion. They dangle it over your head. and see how much that they can get out of you. And there's been so many times where I let someone into my life who I thought I could trust, who I thought was a friend for me, who I thought wanted the best for me, and it turns out they wanted to get something out of me. And it was heartbreaking for me for a while when I was younger, because I wanted so badly to have friends in the industry. I wanted so badly to have mentors. I felt so lost, but I had to really get hardened and realize that these people were not my friends and that they wanted something malicious from me. I saw a lot of people get taken advantage of with that. Something that kind of goes along with that is that at the end of the day, no one is really rooting for you in modeling. You are just a number. And there's a ton of other people, a ton of other girls who are just as beautiful as you, who are just as passionate, who also have something special to offer. So the people in the industry, they're not really rooting for you. I was really hoping to find that my agents like believed in me and like loved me and like wanted me to do well. But at the end of the day, I was just like, meh, if she gained a little bit extra weight along her hips, she's out. If she broke out one day, she's out. Because I had like pimples on my forehead when I was literally like 15, yeah, everyone gets it. I was put on Accutane because of it, which is an extremely harsh drug that for people really dealing with like extreme cystic acne, but I was put on it because they just wanted it gone right away. As a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I think it was like every 2 months I had to go in for measurements. Every 2 months I had to make sure that my measurements were good, which means 35-inch hips, 25-inch waist, and 34-inch chest. That's the standard. And if you have anything other than that, they start to look at you sideways and kind of make you feel bad about yourself, suggesting you need to tone up, suggesting that you need to eat a little bit cleaner, and just making you kind of feel like crap. My biggest problem was I had bigger hips and a bigger booty. Funny enough, that's a huge thing now. So never listen to beauty standards, folks, because I was so nervous about my butt 24/7. I was like, my butt's gonna look too big. They're gonna tell me to lose weight. I was constantly freaking out about it. Instead of like enjoying my youth, enjoying my teen, loving who I was constantly trying to change it to please my agents, to make them happy in hopes that they would give me more jobs. But at the end of the day, they weren't rooting for me or cheering me on. Instead, they were just waiting for me to fail, pretty much, you know? And that's how it is with everyone, because you really are a dime a dozen. The second that you don't follow through on something, there's 10 other girls who are able to do so. That also trails into my next point, which is there's always something wrong with you. Every single time I would go into this measurement update or digital, there was always something wrong with me. Whether my hair was wrong, I needed to get my hair touched up, whether I needed to be tanner, whether I needed to be thinner, even just little things like the way that I wore my hair or the way that I smiled. There was always something wrong with you. You almost have to wonder if they do it on purpose, if the agents are almost taught to put you down constantly, so that you're desperate to get any job that they give you and you're constantly working to better and better yourself, taking drastic changes and unhealthier adjustments to your diet and lifestyle. So those are some really, really harsh realities in the modeling industry. But basically when I turned 17, I was just like, this is not the life for me. This isn't the world for me. I want to feel like I have something more to offer. It was a hard decision for me though, because it's like almost like a toxic relationship. You're put down constantly, and then you have these 1 or 2 opportunities where you're just lifted up and you feel so good about yourself, like you have so much potential, and then bam, you're like brought back down. You know, it was like this cycle that I couldn't get out of for a while. I think that there's so much more that you can do with your mind and your spirit than model. And there's some people also that are able to do it, and they're able to balance it out, and they're able to stay sane and to navigate the tough world, and good for them. They're definitely extremely strong individuals. So in conclusion, if you really, really want to try modeling, definitely go for it, because you'll never know unless you do. I still believe that if I didn't go for being a model, if I didn't get into that big agency, I would have never known, and I would have always wondered. So yes, if you feel like that's part of you, then definitely go for it. But understand these harsh realities that the modeling industry is a big business, and at the end of the day, you're just a number that's bringing in the agency money. And if you start to cause problems or drama or point things out, maybe they'll drop you. If you have friends who feel like maybe are interested in modeling but don't know these things, or maybe that you just think would find this video interesting and really helpful, definitely send this to them. Let's spread the word that modeling is not something to look up to. Hopefully I see you guys next time in the next video. Until then, stay well.